Hello and welcome to Mind, Body, Abundance TV. I'm Patricia Clason of the Dare to Be Aware Fair, and I'm really excited to be here today to tell you just a little bit about the fair and give you an opportunity to meet two of the folks who will be at the fair, two of over 100 exhibitors and 13 different presenters, all included in the $15 admission fee to the Dare to Be Aware Fair, which this year is on May 11th at the Brookfield Conference Center. It's the day before Mother's Day, and some of the things we're doing at the fair have a special Mother's Day significance. That's a teaser. I'll tell you more about that in a little bit. But first, I want to introduce you to Joanna Angeli. Joanna of New Heart Coaching, welcome to the show.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me to be here. I'm honored.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm excited to have you with us. So you do coaching.
I do.
Your business, New Heart Coaching, but you have a phrase that you use when you talk about your coaching. You talk about soul and sage work. I've never heard that before. What does that mean?
So when you think of coaching, people often think of the traditional type of coaching, right? So goals and processes. They think of it in terms of professional development, personal development, business development. We in the soul space actually work on the inner being. We work to help people discover the true essence of who they are, and to dive deeper into what the soul is longing to bring to the world. It's really about the deeper desires of the individual. And so believing that the soul already has the answers to what we want from life, we go into that essence. And so coaching with traditional coaching often is the doing, the masculine, whereas soul coaching is really about the feminine and about the being.
And the sage, you can tell us about that
So
too?
the sage is absolutely, the sage is the neuroscience of how the brain can learn to go into a more peaceful frame of mind, to take us out of a stress, or even to prevent a stress from happening. So it's really a mind and soul sort of endeavor.
Something we all need these days.
Yes.
There's plenty of stress and pressure out there in the world. So what led you personally to becoming a coach?
It's been a journey. It's been a journey of probably 25 years.
Wow.
And 3 burnouts in my lifetime.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And I am happy to say I'm very, very well positioned now. But my first burnout was probably about 25 years ago with 2 young children and a dog and a home to take care of and a divorce that had happened in between all of that.
Okay.
Along with a pretty large career where everything was demanding on the outside for me to do all that needed to be done.
Yeah.
And I was burning out, and I eventually left that career. I then had a second burnout. My kids are now grown and into adulthood, and my second burnout came because I was trying to please everyone. I was trying to be all things to all people.
That doesn't work.
No. And I was very much in that doing. I was doing fundraising. I was doing programming. I was doing, as an executive director of a nonprofit, raising lots of money, but very much in the doing. Burned out again, except that time it required a mental health leave of absence. And I had a doctor, a therapist, and a coach who put Humpty Dumpty back together. And my coach really put into me the importance of values and how to use those as my guidepost. Fast forward to just a couple of years ago, I felt burnout happening again. And then once again left that career. But I went into sage healing, soul healing, did a retreat out in Sedona, and discovered that there was an 8-year-old little girl inside of me who had experienced a pretty significant trauma.
Oh, my.
And yet I was able to heal that wound. And that has now become a part of my work, is the core wound healing process. So
well, that's a lot. I mean, you're bringing lots of experience and recovery to what you're doing, and I can see why you would now want to share that with other people.
Exactly it.
I've heard that you've had a couple of significant successes in your work.
I have.
So tell me about at least one of them.
Okay. One in particular, a young woman, she was in her mid-20s at the time that we started working together, and she was in inordinate amount of stress and pressures at her job. So again, kind of similarly aligned, right? And those stresses were compiling and making her physically and emotionally and mentally ill. And along the way, she had 2 unfortunate miscarriages, which really compounded her struggles. When we started working together, we started again working on that inner peace, that inner calling of what her heart was longing for. And in doing so, she was able to move into the true essence of who she is and who she's meant to be. And I'm excited to tell you that she should have told you this from the start. She was able to carry her 3rd pregnancy to full term and has an absolutely adorable 18-month-old little boy.
Oh my goodness, that's a wonderful story. And it tells me how important doing our personal work is, that if we don't do that work somewhere along the line, it is going to derail us in life.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think that's a big piece of what the whole fair is about is, okay, everybody, here's lots and lots and lots of tools that are going to help you live the best life you want to live. You just have to choose to use them.
And I think the word tools is essential to the work that I do anyway, is that there are so many tools available and there will be 100+ vendors sharing all those beautiful tools and tools that will help us again live into the true essence of who we are in a state of healing, in a state of prosperity. So yeah, the fair is a great place for that.
And we need different tools.
Yes.
There can't just be just one tool for everybody. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
At least that's been my observation over all these years. So give us an example of a tool that our watchers, the people who are watching the show right now, what's something that they could do? What's something you could teach them that would be helpful?
So in the SAGE generation process, I coach basically 3 areas, right? Is addressing the core wounds, moving to a forgiveness process, and then into SAGE generation. And that SAGE generation really focuses on the neurotransmitters within our brain that we can actually reprogram to keep us from jumping into tragedy, from jumping into panic. And so on an app-based, neuroscience-based program, clients are able to reprogram their brain, the neurotransmitters. And so if you are willing to join me on just a little quick exercise, I'd be...
Bonnie, you willing to join?
Yeah.
Okay, we're in.
Okay, so if you feel safe to do so, I would invite you to close your eyes.
Okay.
And only if you feel safe. I invite you to take your thumb and middle finger and place them so gently together that they're barely touching. And yet they are touching where you feel the ridges, the indentations, the temperature, the callus perhaps on that finger. Focus on the sensation while just breathing at your slow and calm pace. Now, if you would, take the fingertips of one hand to the fingertips of the other. And again, at your breath, at your own pace, slide those fingers down of one hand, down the other.
Like that?
Fingertip to fingertip. Yes. Circling those fingertips. Sliding the fingertip down one hand to the palm.
I don't think I'm doing it right, Joanna.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you're asking for this. So take the fingertips.
Oh, okay.
Down to the palm.
Got it.
Circling the palm and feeling all, again, the temperature, the warmth, the sensations. And even palm to palm. Ever so gently, just feeling what's there. We could go on for a long time. So I'll just invite you to come back into this space with your eyes open. And so 15 minutes a day, 3 times a day, 5 minutes each, going onto an app and practicing those type of exercises actually reprogram the neurotransmitters in our brain and allow us to not just stay positive, but to be able to be in the place that when anxiety or when stress arises, to be in that moment. So I was doing this, by the way, on the way here, as I was anticipating this whole recording, just bringing myself to my center. So
got it.
that's
Thank you.
an example. You're welcome.
So those of you who are watching, the good news is this video is going to be here for a long time. You can come back and you can revisit and you can have Joanna walk you through that again until you get used to doing it on your own. And you can meet her at the fair and have a chance to learn more about all of this and
Absolutely.
talk to you about maybe working with you, right?
Yes.
So what's this soul circle? You said something about a soul circle.
I have a soul circle, Waukesha Soul Circle, that runs on the first Tuesday of every month on Zoom. It's through Meetup, so people can register on Meetup to become a member of the Waukesha Soul Circle group. And then we meet once a month for about an hour. And we talk about different topics. For example, the core wound healing. What does that really mean? And how does that affect us and where does that come in? And how do we actually heal that? We may talk about forgiveness processes and opportunities for people to go out and do their own forgiveness of themselves and of others as well.
So if they went to meetup.com, they would just search for
Waukesha Soul Circle.
Waukesha
Yes.
Soul Circle.
Indeed.
Got it.
Yes.
Now, if people want to reach you either before the fair or after the fair, they're impatient, they want to get to you right away.
I'm ready.
Or they're watching this after the fair is over, but they're still interested, where do they go?
So I have an email account. That's Joanna, Joanna,
Okay.
at New Heart Coaching, NEWHERT, so newheartcoaching.com.
Okay.
Website is newheartcoaching.com,
Easy to remember.
and that should take them to where they need to be. And then the meetup group.
Okay. Well, I heard another rumor, and that's that there was going to be a Tin Man at the fair. What's this?
There will be a Tin Man at the fair. I'm offering an opportunity for people to play Pin the Heart on the Tin Man.
Okay.
For an opportunity to win 3 coaching sessions with me.
Oh, wow.
And so they will be invited to participate, and people who get the heart on the heart, the little sticky heart on the heart, will be a part of a drawing. And in that drawing, I will win pull the person who wins the 3 sessions.
All right. But they have to come to the fair to do that.
They absolutely must be at the fair, and they must be at booth 51.
Okay. So, and you have one other thing you wanted to share with us today.
I do, and it is something that goes back to my childhood for certain, and is that of the slinky.
Oh, yes.
I participated in a somatic trauma healing conference not too long ago, and Dr. Peter Levine taught us about the slinky and how it represents the energies that we are holding in our bodies, and a matter of how do we release those energies, slowly or quickly, and the effect of doing that. And so at the fair again, I will have mini slinkies
To help us practice slow.
help us slow, but also the sensation of the slinky and how that can bring us back into ourselves. So
Now, who would have ever thought that the slinky would be some sort of meditative, psychological healing technique?
Dr. Peter Levine.
But I don't think they thought of that when they created that back in the 50s.
No, absolutely not.
Well, Joanna, thank you so much.
you.
And you know what you've been talking about, you've been using the term somatic, which references the body, and Dr. Levine. And we have the honor today of talking with Bonnie Leggo, who is an SE practitioner, somatic experiencing practitioner, and a yoga teacher, and a whole bunch of other things. She's quite an adept woman, an athlete. So, Bonnie, you're with Pathways to Healing. That's your company name, if people want to look for you. And your approach, you somehow found a path to being more aware of this idea of somatic healing, how important the body was in the healing process. Tell us just a little bit about why you think the body is a key to healing.
Well, much like Joanna was talking about, just the idea that our bodies really encompass, they're the container for all the energy that we have. So, and a long time ago, or maybe a short period ago, relatively, someone named Patricia Clason told me about emotions, and emotions really being energy and motion. And in our bodies, sometimes in different situations, we may have the challenge of not being able to express that energy fully. And so really that can get trapped in our body. And the idea with somatic experiencing is really finding slow, titrated ways to sort of pendulate in and out of those experiences to allow that past energy to discharge out of the body. And so the body is really the key container of all that energy and the means of releasing that energy.
Pendulate, that's kind of like slinky.
Yeah, it is a little bit. It's like, like the pendulum, like back and forth from a resource or a positive experience and then into something, one foot in that resource and the other foot in this experience of potential activation from the past or present or both.
Well, so I think most people, when they think about not wanting to feel a feeling in the moment, don't think about it as being stored in the body. And yet there's so much evidence now that that's the case. And Dr. Levine's been a big leader in that. I'm a little jealous that you got to go spend so much time with him and learning in that field of study. So somehow you, prior to that study, made the connection. It had something to do with your background as an athlete. And tell us a little bit about that.
Thank you. Yeah. So for as long as I can remember, I've been an athlete. My body has been the way that I've expressed myself. Even as a child, I remember hiking mountains and doing all kinds of things and skiing from like the age of 3. And it's just always been my means to really expressing what is going on for me. And, in adolescence and early adulthood, I had some challenging experiences. I went to a federal service academy and just had some experiences that really left me wondering, like why those things happened. And so it was about in my mid-20s when I started, and I transferred and became a social worker from an engineer. And it was a big change for everyone, especially my family. I really started to focus on like healing some of that stuff and recognizing, I went through a lot of different pathways like Reiki and Rolfing and Vipassana meditation and even psychedelic work, regular talk therapy. And then I started to do some more bottom-up approaches, much like Peter Levine's work and somatic work, focusing more on what my body was feeling versus what my mind was, kind of racing and analyzing and focusing on. And I just learned so much about how our bodies really are the means to releasing anything that has come before, but also the tremendous capacity our bodies have. I mean, not only in athletic events, most definitely in athletic events too, but also just in connecting and creating relationships with people in a different way, based on really being able to sit with myself and feel what's going on. And I had a mentor, besides Patricia, I had another mentor too, that has always said to me, experience is the best teacher, Bonnie. And I truly believe that.
Yep.
And so, yeah, that's kind of how I've come to really recognizing the need for the body work.
So in doing the body work with people, you've noticed some specific changes that happen for folks. Can you describe that a bit for us?
Yeah. So in terms of really focusing on grounding initially, so a lot of times what happens in our bodies and our nervous systems, if we're kind of stuck in a place of hypervigilance, for instance, what happens is we're not able to fully connect with our bodies, and it almost becomes scary sometimes to really connect, right? And Patricia's taught me a lot about cortisol and all kinds of, and hormones that happen, and that the impact of these patterns that develop over time in our bodies. And so some of the work that I really, really like to do with people is kind of a mix of yoga as well as the somatic experiencing, but really focusing on grounding initially and really learning what it feels like to be within the body, having the feet on the ground, having the sits bones and the chair and that long spine, curved and all the way up to the crown of the head, and feeling that. It really just that's like the beginning. That's the beginning of this work, is being able to feel safe and confident in ourselves in this moment, and then slowly working again, pendulating into some of those experiences of the past.
I think sometimes we get so in our heads with our thoughts that we're really not in our bodies.
Yeah.
We're not paying attention to what's all happening here.
Yeah.
I'm going to take this opportunity actually to mention veterans, because I know that you are a veteran, Bonnie. Thank you. And we've decided this year to make the fair free for veterans. We want to expand the world to them, because many of them don't know about all these different things, because this isn't what you get when you go to the VA. That's not disparaging of anybody, but it's just not what they do there. Yeah. And there's so many potential things that can be done outside of traditional medical work that can be so healing. And what you were just saying about grounding, that's what connected all that for me right now, is how many times when we first connect with veterans in retreats, they're here, and they're not here. And when they get here, all of a sudden there's all this stuff, kind of like Joanna was talking about it also. So that thing of doing that grounding that you were just describing seems like it's a pretty important step in the process.
Most definitely is. And I think from that, like in somatic experiencing, we would call it resourcing. So from that specific primary resource of being able to ground into our seats and recognizing that we're in a safe space, that we have the capacity. And I love, Joanna, how you asked if you feel comfortable closing your eyes, because for many people who have, are either first responders, which I've been, as well as like dealing with, military and really massive incidents, it can be really difficult and scary to close the eyes. And I just think that's a wonderful thing to bring up and just offer people the option, And I've seen, recently, I've been working with an Afghanistan veteran, fully 100% with the VA, and just working on grounding and working on recognizing there are safe spaces in his body. And that's that next part after the breathing part, is really noticing these either neutral places in our body or places of like positivity, potentially with like heat or a sensation that is just that we can savor for a few moments. And we start at really small levels, just maybe 5 seconds. Just savor that for 5 seconds. I'm here with you, and it's so important to have that compassionate like witness and someone who can facilitate that and notice when people are maybe getting a little too close to the edge of their windows of tolerance, if you will. Yeah.
That was me just doing grounding. So can you take the folks who are watching through a short grounding similar to what Joanna did?
Yeah.
Give us another option.
Yeah, for sure. So also as a yoga teacher, this is something that I love to do in the beginning of classes. Typically we'll start like in a child's pose or something like that. But any way that we can have a lot of contact with the ground, as well as any seat, anything that we find ourselves in. So noticing your feet, potentially touching the bar of the chair or chairs. And then just potentially closing your eyes if you're comfortable with that. And potentially placing your hands either open, facing up on your lap, or even maybe one hand to the heart and one hand to the belly. Those are the youngest, the oldest parts of our nervous system. The brain is the youngest part. So just noticing that contact that your hands are making either on your lap or touching your chest and your belly. And taking some good breaths, nothing pressured, but breathing all the way into the belly. And then on the exhale, allowing whatever needs to come out to come out. And as we breathe a little deeper, what we're doing is stimulating that vagus nerve. that we talk so much about, in somatic work and polyvagal work. Noticing that strong spine from our sits bones touching the chair, potentially noticing the warmth under the backs of our thighs. That spine reaching all the way up to the crown of the head. And one last thing, some people like to hum, and some people don't mind doing a VU. Both serve the same purpose. We're just going to stimulate that vagus nerve, a nerve that runs from the back of the head all the way down to the intestines, and really does message a lot of important messages to all the organs in between. So we'll take a nice inhale, and on the exhale, we'll do this noise, VU. So inhale in. You can notice that reverberation, too, within your body. It's a really nice way to start a yoga class. It's usually Om, which is very close to VU, right? But we won't get into that. But it's a really nice way to settle and to ground to an experience. And I have emergency room nurses at Fredert and UW Hospital in Madison that sneak into bathrooms and do this quite a few times overnight.
I just had this vision of being at the fair and seeing people. There's places where you can just sit and relax for a little while. You don't have to be on your feet the whole time. And I'm imagining seeing people sitting in their places with their fingertips, like you said, Joanna, and breathing the way you just said, Bonnie. And going, oh, they watched the show.
It works for a very active puppy
Does
to do the VU. Yes.
Really, the puppy goes in tune with the vibration.
Yes.
I love it. That means kids might too. And speaking of kids, Bonnie, you're doing a special meditation at the fair for mothers and their children, whichever you are, the child or the mother in the pair, or you might be both. But you're going to tell us just a little bit about that meditation you're presenting during the fair.
Sure. So I want to preface it by noting that in terms of activation or trauma, it really is about the impact of that activation and not the event. And there is a wonderful somatic experiencing faculty member named Efu Nagaki, I believe her last name is. She's a Tanzanian medicine woman, a somatic experiencing practitioner, as well as a family constellations therapist. And she talks a lot about that. And from the work that she's done, as well as just working with people in somatic experiencing, I've learned quite a bit about how that epigenetically, how things get passed on from one generation to another. Breath, right? And
all the moms just took a deep breath.
And an interesting fact is that when your maternal grandmother was pregnant with your mother, within your mother, at about 5 months gestation, were the eggs that will become you. And so in that moment, all three of you are physiologically in the same place at the same time.
Wow.
So what comes with that is the joys and the potential challenges and fears and pains and surprises that grandmother was feeling. You are also connected to those. And so this work and this meditation is really about focusing not only on what could have been, but also what can be within both the community in a safe place, eyes open or closed, but also focusing on our ancestors. And what I would just like to share about that in terms of clients I've worked with is it's been really beneficial to do this work. And the thing with SE and most bottom-up approaches is that we tend to leave those sessions and those experiences with different insights and different understandings, much like work I've done with you. You leave with a lesson, you leave with an understanding, a different perspective or perception. And there's just some wonderful things that can come from this meditation. And I would just say personally, doing these meditations too, I've both been able to contact and work on relationships that are no longer, like the people are no longer living, but I can still be in contact and do that work, as well as really the way that has kind of come down the line to my daughter, who's very,
Yeah, she's precious. So sounds like something most of us will want to be in that day for sure. So I hope that you all will consider coming to the fair and spending time with these two wonderful women and all of the other presenters and exhibitors at the fair, all kinds of alternative health and well-being modalities. Before we go though, Bonnie, tell us, how can people reach you?
Yeah, so my website is pathwaysomatic.com, and they can reach me like Joanna's, her first name, my first name, Bonnie, Bonnie, at pathwaysomatic.com.
Somatic is S-O-M-A-T-I-C, somatic.
Yes.
Just because it's a word a lot of us aren't used to.
True. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm getting more and more excited for the fair every day, and I'm really grateful to have had a chance to present you to the community and give them a chance to hear more about what you have to offer. And Joanna, welcome back to the fair again for this year, and we look forward to having you around for a long time, I hope. Good, okay. So thank you for watching the show. We look forward to seeing you at the fair May 11th at the Brookfield Conference Center. And if you're watching this after the fair, please go to the Dare Fair site, daretobeawarefair.com, and sign up for notifications about the fair in 2025, which will be in April. So thank you again. Have a great day.